So, you think you know the Palazzo Pitti in Florence. Most people see it as this incredible, world-class museum, and, they're not wrong. But what if I told you that was just the final act? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on its secret history, because this palace was really a grand stage, built on a pretty amazing illusion.
Yeah, think about it. When you walk through those halls today, what do you see, right? Priceless art, these ridiculously opulent rooms. But for centuries, this building was something else entirely. It was a meticulously crafted theater designed to completely blur the line between the private lives of its rulers and the public performance of their power.
Okay, so to really get the pity, you have to understand this core contrast. It's like two sides of a coin. On one side, you've got the Palazzo della Signoria. That's the Palazzo Vecchio, the formal public center of government. But then you have the Palazzo Pitti, and it was bought for a completely different reason. It was supposed to be a private family home.
All right, let's dive into that secret history.
So the story kicks off back in 1549. A woman named Eleonora di Toledo, she was the wife of Duke Cosimo I, buys this unfinished palace, and its original purpose is absolutely key. This was meant to be their private escape, a sanctuary to raise a family, way away from all the official, stuffy duties of the state. And for a while, that's exactly what it was, a family home. But here's the thing, this wasn't just any family home. This was the home of a dynasty that was just starting to get a taste of its own massive power. We actually have this great little snapshot from a Venetian ambassador back in 1561. He wrote that Duke Cosimo didn't act like a prince inside the Pitti. Instead, he was more like a very great father of a family. I mean, that suggests a surprisingly relaxed, almost normal atmosphere, doesn't it? And when he said father of a family, he wasn't kidding. 8. That's how many kids Cosimo and Eleonora had. So you can just imagine. This place wasn't the quiet, sterile museum we see today. It was a bustling, probably pretty loud home, filled with all the chaos of a giant family. But that whole cozy family home phase, well, it wasn't gonna last. The private retreat was about to get a major makeover, rebuilt into a grand stage for the whole Medici dynasty. You can actually see the transformation happening in the architecture itself. First, in 1565, they build the Vasari Corridor, that famous private elevated walkway that physically connects the Pitti to the government offices. Big move. Then, fast forward to the 1640s, and you get artists like Pietro da Cortona decorating these incredible planetary rooms. The palace was quite literally being remodeled for the show. And here's why. The goal completely shifted. The next generation of Medici, guys like Ferdinand I, they had bigger ambitions. They were looking at the unbelievable luxury of other courts around Europe and thinking, hey, we can do that. They realized the Pitti Palace could be their ultimate tool for projecting power, wealth, and influence on a massive scale. And wow, does this show it? Just look at the numbers. The number of court staff in uniform, it just explodes. Under Cosimo, it's 168 people. By the late 1600s, almost 800. Think about that. The palace wasn't a home anymore. It had become a small city, totally dedicated to running the spectacle of the Medici court. So that's the big picture. But what was it actually like to live inside this place? This grand, crowded theater of power? Well, the reality was a lot more complicated and a lot messier than you'd think. Okay, so on the one hand, yes, it was this elaborate stage, right, for all the official stuff, ceremonies, diplomacy, the whole performance of being an absolute monarch. But it was also a giant dormitory. I mean, literally hundreds of courtiers, staff, and soldiers were living and sleeping inside the palace walls, often in the most makeshift ways. And get this is just mind-blowing. The Sala di Venera, this is the Grand Duke's main audience chamber. It also had a bed hidden away with a trundle for a servant. In the grand entrance on the ground floor, the official reception area, yeah, at night, it became a barracks. They'd lay out 12 mattresses for the guards. Can you just imagine that collision of worlds? The high-stakes performance of statecraft happening literally feet away from where the staff is sleeping, public ceremony and private life all crammed into the very same space. And daily life could get, Well, messy. We know this from court diaries, which are full of these incredible kind of gritty details. Like this one story about a servant, Cesare Tinghi, who got caught urinating near the Grand Duke's private bridge. A guard beat him for it. But when the Duke heard what happened, did he punish the guard? Nope. He laughed, and he paid the guard 4 piastri for his trouble. It's a tiny little story, but it tells you everything about the chaotic human reality and the super rigid hierarchies that were going on right behind that velvet curtain of ceremony. But, every show has to end. The Medici dynasty eventually faded, and the palace was about to enter its final and maybe its most famous act. It all came to an end in 1737. The very last Medici Grand Duke, a man named Giangaston, died without an heir. And just like that, after almost 2 centuries, the Grand Medici performance at the Pitti Palace was over. The stage went dark. And for about 30 years, the palace was basically abandoned. We have a record from a visitor in 1739 who was just shocked. He wrote that the apartments looked bare, totally neglected. The place that was once this bustling theater was now just an empty, dusty shell. But it was about to be reborn. The new dynasty that took over, the House of Lorena, they had a different idea. They started organizing the incredible, vast Medici art collections, and they began the process of turning this former home into a public gallery for Florence and for the whole world.
And of course, that's the palace we all know today. It has the world's largest collection of paintings by Raphael, masterpieces by Titian, Caravaggio, Rubens. The list goes on. Its final role as this treasure chest of art has become its most famous, its most enduring legacy.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? When you or I visit a historic place like the Palazzo Pitti, what are we actually seeing? Are we seeing its real history, all the chaotic, crowded, messy reality of it being a home and a stage? Or are we just seeing the final, perfectly polished scene of a very, very long play?